Are ready to greet their heroes, Vincent Bonner and Seamus McGetty. Plan to snatch the oil man's money?
No way. I never figured even from the word go that anything like this could happen.
How long have you been at the game?
This is about, I think, the 13th year. 13 times lucky.
Here you are. But you had a great drive.
Well, I can't complain. The car went beautifully. I hadn't a hitch from the word go. Every stage, just one after the other, they were all the same. We hadn't a problem with the car. Certainly making a fantastic job of the car.
But you had some superb competition as well. I think you'd like to pay tribute to the...
Oh, definitely. I mean, Austin McHale put on some performance. He was the star of the rally. He's been tortured with bad luck all the time, and this time again it struck on Atlantic Drive. And I want to pay tribute to Austin McHale for putting up such a fine display of driving. Well, he definitely was mighty man.
Welcome along to Krunching Gears, the rally podcast. It's a little bit different this time because we're in conversation with Vincent Bonner. I suppose this has almost come back to the initial thought process behind this podcast, 3 years ago, more now at this stage, where, over lockdown I get a chance to talk over Zoom with, my heroes as such. And always been a dream to have a sit-down conversation with one of those heroes, just to see could it be done with, a few people there as well. And Conor, I suggested it to you, and you said, that sounds like a great idea. I was expecting you to say no, but it kind of took legs very quickly, didn't it?
It did. I know, listen, far too good an idea to say no to. And I suppose we always wondered what would it be like doing a podcast in front of a live audience. So it was the perfect opportunity to give it a go. Yeah, and it was a bit surreal. I wanted it very small, because I wasn't sure whether I could be comfortable in front of people or not, But, there was a lovely atmosphere in the room last Saturday night when we recorded this. And it was, for me personally, it was a huge achievement. And it was just such a lovely vibe in the room. I know, it was fantastic. We were amongst, Vincent's family, his friends, his supporters, and, it was an incredible atmosphere. A lovely man, a lovely night. And we're delighted that we can, it was recorded and we can bring it to people and let them see and watch it. For sure. And we have so many people to thank for making it happen, I suppose, first of all, Donegal. He, whenever I went to him and asked him, told him what we thought what this process was, it was like, yep, go ahead, yep, whatever room you need that's there for you. So really appreciate that. Just his general help, for making it all happen. Two people then that really sort of facilitated it all was been Rory Kennedy and John Bonner. Again, one to them with me idea as well, and yep, we'll make it happen, let's do it. Then everybody we asked to come on the night could, the minute you mentioned Vincent Bonner, will be there, no problem at all, glad to help. Then Michael Devlin, who come along and helped us out with the sound. We were scratching our brains, or scratching our heads, figuring, our brains were fried how we're going to record the sound and video and everything. And spoke to him, told him what my thoughts was, and I thought, well, that can happen, we can do that. So that took a big pressure off us. Joe Sharp, everybody knows Joe Sharp around. Anybody that goes to a rally will know Joe Sharp from his exploits with a camera around the country. I said to Joe what I was thinking of right away. Yes, I'll be there, Kevin, no problem. The camera will be there, ready for action. So, Joe, thank you. Then we had Mark McCullough and Gavin Woods there on the night as well to, just generally assist, take a few photos. That was gratefully appreciated. Another man was Fergus McAnallen too, a fantastic slideshow on the night as well too, so appreciate that. But Conor, I really need to thank you as well too, because as I say, I have these brain farts and you never say no. You always try and figure out a way of making it happen, and thank you very much for that. What can we say? It was just, I don't know, madness, crazy, but what a night. Oh, listen, it was good crazy, and it was a lovely night. I'm delighted to have been a part of it. really enjoyed it. I hope it comes across equally as well on the recording and on the video. The what we felt, what we captured on the night was just incredible. And what do you call it? At the end of it, we're going to have a slideshow of some of the photos from the evening as well.
And tonight we're in conversation with Vincent Bonner. I'd like to ask Vincent to please join John and Kevin at the table, and I'd ask everybody please be upstanding for our special guest.
As Conor said, you are very welcome along to in conversation with Vincent Bonner. Vincent, you're our guinea pig here tonight, so we'll give it a rattle and see how it goes. But as I say, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming along here tonight. It's a fantastic turnout. Vincent, it's a huge honour for me here and for Conor here to help us tell your story tonight, so I hope you enjoy it.
Oh, don't worry, I'd enjoy it. I've met people here that I haven't seen, I would say, for 30, 40 years nearly. And delighted to be here, and delighted, for everybody, that the effort they put in to make it happen tonight,
Well, we should start off. What was it really fired off you built the buzz about rallying? Where did that spark fall out of?
Well, it had happened a terrible long time ago. It happened before, I would say 2 or 3 weeks before the Rally of the Rosses. Then used to come. I had a wee garage in Dunlow, and they used to come a boy round, Jackie Harris from Letterkenny, and he was selling parts like an auto factor, and we started talking, the two of us, and he was going to buy a car, so I says, right, I know nothing about rallying, but sure, I'll buy a car and see where it goes from there. That was the beginning of it.
And you bought a Mini then for the first one?
Yeah, I was looking at the paper that time. It was the evening press. You would buy it in the evening, and you would look at the advertisements for cars. There were no such thing as Auto Trader or Donegal or anything at that time, so I bought the evening press nearly every night, and eventually I came on this car down outside of Athlone, Monte, and he was a fella that used to service for Mick Dolan. He was a rally driver at that time, and he had a wee money, and myself and the wife, her good self, we landed down and bought the car.
And she's never forgive you since, I would
No,
say.
I'd say that. That's the truth. That's for sure. That's right. That was the beginning of it then. And I don't know, went from less to more after that then.
Yeah, and I suppose having the Rally of the Rosses in your hometown, you couldn't not do the event, really.
And I didn't even know what a special stage or anything like that was before it, or I didn't know about time cards or controls or absolutely nothing. But I think some of the boys said to me maybe after 3 stages we were leading the rally, Billy Coleman, he won the rally eventually in an Alpine sprint. But we would go on well, and I think we went out in Glendona out there someplace, and one of the drive shaft broke, and that was the end of it.
And was did that light the fire? Did you want to be a rally driver then?
Oh, that was the beginning of the end, definitely. I mean, it went from less to more. Then couldn't get into it quick enough. Would want to get in every single day of the week. Then, and went from strength to strength. Then bought different cars over the period and whatnot.
And you had always good people around you as well. You had Pat City and Jerry O'Donnell and guys like that. Working on the car as well as you're working on it probably every hour yourself. You could spare.
Unbelievable. They're more interested in it than I had. I mean, they were up every night and we worked till morning, taking the car apart and putting it together. And I remember I remember the story with the Circuit of Ireland. We done it one year, and it was a petrol shortage, and I had one of those big Bedford vans, and we put a 45-gallon drum up on the roof of it, and we had a hose coming down from the drum to fill the car every time we came into service. And it was them boys that done all that. I never even had nothing to do with that. That was all they were doing. Yeah.
Maybe Conor, maybe catch up with Pat City there and Jerry O'Donnell and get just a few thoughts from them.
Surely to God, they'll have some stories, them boys, I'm telling you now. I remember us been down one time, we were down in Killarney, and my brother, he was sitting there at the time, and Pat was with us, and we were sitting at the dinner table last night, and the starters was on, and there were snails on the starters, and Jesus, Pat started on about the snails. They were not going to eat here, not going to eat here. That was all them. Well, the best of crack definitely had now. Great crack. Yeah.
So, Pat, you weren't too fussed in the snails then, were you not?
No. It's some great memories out at Vincent. So yeah, he used to go down at night time there, and before the rally, he would go out testing. And we used to go down round the gunners and back up at the church, and out onto the main street. Yeah, great memories. Yeah.
And Pat said, them were brilliant years, I would say. Every day was an adventure, when it was like that.
Yeah. Well, we were servicing, and we had a lot of mishaps now. The buck next door here.
Jerry, maybe you want to tell us a wee mishap or two there?
I got the blame for boiling up a kettle with filter up with petrol instead of water. we had a time bomb up in cabin one night. But sure, they were the good days. Yeah.
Jerry, maybe you want to tell us the full story about the kettle?
Well, they wanted tea about 3 o'clock in the morning, and we took out the gas and we filled her up with, we thought it was water, it was petrol. But 15 minutes the kettle wasn't boiling, and Michael, Vincent's brother, said, was the kettle going to boil the night at all? So I go over and lift the lid off it, and it just blew up. The rally car was in between the rally car and the van. We were towing the van car home, and we couldn't get the rope open. And the whole side of the road was on fire. And one of them things. One of them nights.
Was it just a case of jump in the car and go then, or did they just put out the fire?
A bonfire night. So, yeah.
And Vincent, your brother Michael was a huge part of your rallying back in them early days as well. He made it happen as much as anybody.
He funded the whole thing, Definitely, I wouldn't have been able to do it unless I had him. And he was worse than myself. I remember him going to, I think it was the Monaco Grand Prix, and I don't know whatever team that suits the boys was wearing. We had to get two of the suits the same. They were made in London. Linnea that made them in London, and the two suits came home from London. No, he was terrible. Definitely was. Yeah.
Yes, we're two very stylish boys stepping about the service area, I would say.
I'm telling you now, definitely. I can remember them yet. They were red suits with white stripes down through them. Definitely. Yeah.
And you started off in the Monte then, and then you traded up. Then was it a Lotus Cortina? Then was the next car.
I remember I bought a 2.5 Triumph petrol injection, a lethal thing to go. And I remember PJ O'Hare, he came over and he was looking at the car, and he says, "Geez, I wouldn't mind buying that." And I says, "Well, I don't know, I like it, and I'll keep it, And he says, "I'll trade the Lotus." And eventually we done the deal, and I bought the Lotus, and I done the Circuit of Ireland in the Lotus. That's right. Yeah.
And who do you think got the better end of the deal out of that one, do you think?
Oh no, I don't know. I think it would have been better to hold on to the Triumph.
Maybe PG will give it a that one.
Happy ending is right. Yeah.
Awesome.
Very good. Yeah. Oh no. Yeah.
So PJ, you got a 2.5 Triumph, and Vincent got a Lotus Cortina. Was that a fair swap, do you think?
I'm on it. Oh yeah, okay. It was a fair swap, all right. The Lotus needed a new engine, so Vincent went and built a brand new engine for it, and he landed over with me in Kerrygart to give me a run up around the pans on this Lotus Cortina. And I thought to myself, what did you do with this car? I said, never was as good as that. And he drove it for the Circuit of Ireland.
That's correct. Yeah.
In a few years.
Yeah.
That's right. I went on to buy an Escort Mexico after that.
Right.
Yeah. But just going back before, sorry, am I on air here? Just going back before the rallying started, when Vincent said what kicked him off and he got the spark, Tommy Burns built the Firecrest for me into a full race Downton 1293. And one day before, a racer took her over round the Rosses for a run, and outside Dunlow, the car stopped. Electrical fault. So I says, one man, I'll sort this out. So I landed down with Vincent. It was Sunday evening. So Vincent came out got the car going, and he says, I'll take it for a wee run. And he took the car up to Kathleen's, up in Leitch McGuard when he come back, and he says, Jesus, that's a serious car, that. He says, I never sat in anything like it in all my life. Remember that, Vincent?
I remember terrible well, you know.
That was
the steering, there was so much power, front wheel drive, and it was all over the place.
That was 1969.
Is that what that was?
That's right, aye. And that would have off in 70 then.
So, were you romancing at this stage? You weren't even married or nothing, and you were showing off your skills?
That's right, that's true, that's true.
You were showing off your skills behind the wheel?
Oh, no. Yeah.
And like, you know, that the Lotus Cortina then brought you good success and all then, but it was time then to move on. So a Mark 1 Cortina then, or no, Mark 1 Escort then was the next car on the agenda then?
Yeah, I bought a Mark 1 Escort of Carlo. It belonged to Russell Brooks. He used it in England, and took it home, and it wasn't that powerful. And there was a fella down in Downlands, you probably all know him, he's dead now, John Connors. He was working in Glasgow at the time, and he knew somebody that was working on these Pinto engines and sent it over to him, and he rebuilt the car and took it back. And I remember the first rally we done on it then was here in Donegal town. They used the old Lahi Road, and I remember coming down the old Lahi Road and the two back shocks broke on it over a bump. I'll never forget, I don't know how I ever kept it on the road till I got it stopped. You know, it was all over the place. But went on then and sold it eventually after that then. Yeah.
Was there another man here who bought that car as well? Was PJ involved in that deal as well?
I can't remember that now, to be honest with you.
But like, you know, that the Mark 1, you know, brought you good success as well. You know, like it was the next sort of, I suppose, the next step in the ladder really.
That was, they were all going Mark 1 Escorts then. That was the beginning of the Escorts starting then at that stage, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there was still that need for more speed, so yeah, you started like investigating. Yeah, you had the car, but you ended up over in SMT over in Scotland.
Oh, that's a long story, that one, yeah. I remember I sold the car to Freddie Patterson, I think, or something like that, or when he had a car at that time. It was the James Hunt Tour of Britain car, and it was a Magnum 2.3, and I bought it of him, and the next thing was, that must have been 1977, because my father died that year, and I was to do the Donegal Rally, and I think that may have been the first one I ever missed, and I gave the car to PJ to do the rally. He done the rally that year, and he was going very well in it at the time. And the next thing, we made a wee mistake down in Hornhead, and he put her out. He went off the road, and he was out of the rally, you know. So then after that, then I took the car and went back to SMT and thing, because Jimmy McRae, that was running him at that stage, and they knew all about the Magnums, and I went over to them and they repaired the car, but the car wasn't to my satisfaction. They couldn't get the car squared, so me and the boy that in the office that was working with Jimmy, you know, he says, well, we just need to try and stay with it, and they kept me for 4 or 5 days, and they couldn't eventually get the problem, so I happened to be walking about the garage and passing the time and whatnot, and I went out to the yard, and Jimmy's car was out in the yard, and I came into him and I says, would you be interested in selling Jimmy's car? He looked at me and he says, are you for real? And I says, well, you know, sure, everything has a price, you know. So he says to me, well, you need to leave it with me, because he says, it doesn't belong to us, it belongs to DTV. And I says, okay, whatever. So he came back and he says, yeah, we will do a deal on it. And he says, but we won't sell the number. The number on it was SMT1, but they wouldn't sell the number. And that's how that car that you're looking at in the photographs, that's Jimmy McRae's car, the Group 1 car that he had that time.
So like, that had all the proper bells and whistles. That was a proper works car.
That was the real deal, that one, yeah. Yeah, that was the real deal one.
Yeah, and like, was that a huge step up from your own?
Oh, there was day and night a difference, and you know, there was a head F box, everything was in that car, and all the wee tweaks in the back, harems and all that kind of stuff was all done, you know. Yeah, it was a real Group 1 car, you know, a really good one now. Yeah.
And like, that brought you good success then, because you done a lot of events and that around the country as well then.
I did, and that kind of put a mindset in my mind, you know, not just to buy, you know, nearly any car. After that, I always bought history cars, if you know what I mean, you know. Because I seen the difference from the other car to this car, and all the rest of them, that's what you kind of followed after that.
Yeah, like spend a few quid, but you got it in
You got
the
it
performance.
out to the end,
Yep.
yeah, that's right.
And then like by that stage, then the Sunbeam was the car to have. So the Magnum was traded in for a Sunbeam.
Yeah, that's right. I traded it down at Derek McMahon, bought his Sunbeam, and we had great success in it. Now we finished 6th in the Manx in it one year, But there was a terrible problem with the engine. The pistons were scrapped. That was into the, But when you got it going right, it could go hard, Yeah.
And like back that year, you done so well in the Manx. That was, the Manx was around to the European Rally Championship. It attracted the cream of Irish, British, and European rally drivers at that stage as well.
Oh yeah, they were all there at that time. Yeah.
Like, so to come away with a top 6 result, was
Well,
beyond your dreams, probably. I would say
we were very thrilled with it. Anyway, probably when you look back on it now, you would think, you really, you done terrible well in it. But at the time, we thought we were as good as them anyway.
And was there some boy got in a bit of bother over there as well?
Pardon?
Was there somebody got in a bit of bother over in the Manx as well? That they were nearly going to
God, we can't say too much about that now. One of the crew got into a wee bit of bother over there, but we're not. We'll leave that for another day. That's right.
well, not name and shame, will we?
No.
And then, Neely O'Donnell too, another man here tonight as well. Neely played a part in the team round about that time as well.
That he did indeed. Nearly sat on for a long time with me, and we had. I remember in the Circuit of Ireland one year we were going well. We must have been maybe 15 or 20 minutes leading the Castlereagh Trophy in it, and lost concentration. And a boy came up to me and talked to me before the stage, and he says, "See, everybody down there, they're all lifting. You don't need to lift down there." But even we tried not lifting. They were lifting for a reason. So we went out of it, Yeah, that's right.
There was no point about the Circuit Ireland in them days was like a monster event to get its reputation went around the world.
What did I tell you now? I mean, you were talking about Macula and all them boys, Auricula, all they were really the boys at the time, and they were all in the circuit, yeah.
Yeah, because it was around the British Championship, and it was second to the World Championship really at that time. You had the cream of the cream coming there.
Yeah, everybody wanted to do the circuit. It's a proper rally that time. I remember there were probably 50 stages in it or something like that. All individual stages.
There was
no feats at all. You just kept going on and on and on. Yeah,
and that was day and night as well. Like you may only get 3-4 hours sleep then.
Oh yeah, definitely. I remember we would start maybe on a Monday, coming out of Killarney, we'll say at about 11 o'clock, and you wouldn't finish till you were in Bangor on Tuesday after dinner. And you were coming up through Mayo and Sligo and Donegal and all those stages,
Yeah. And even to come up through Donegal, was there local support out there for you?
Oh, all the time, definitely. The amount of people that watched the stages was unbelievable that time, yeah. I remember going out to Dunlow Lake, that's just out the road from John lives on it. And I remember going out one year before I was ever in rallying, and Roger Clark, he was leading it, and was talking to him at the start of the stage, Yeah, and that's a long, long time ago. Yeah.
So even before you started, there was something burning in you, right?
Well, something that you never would see every day of the week, Yeah.
Because you think here the local history around this area, Loch Esk, is one of them Circuit Ireland stages. It's synonymous with the rally back in the day.
That's correct. That's right. Even when we done the Deja Vu out of here, Paddy Harker, God rest him. He went off on it, and he went out. Rory was driving him, and we stopped when he went off, and he met the fella that helped him out that night. Some history out there.
That's for sure. Isn't that the great thing about rallying? You meet some characters. You meet, that guy that was there, 50 odd years ago was, there to tell, Paddy's story.
That's correct. Oh yeah. There's a fella here the night, and definitely 25 years or more since I met him. And I couldn't believe when I came into the thing tonight and that man's here.
And I would say you just fell into conversation as if you met him last week.
I couldn't believe when I seen him, He was one of the boys that looked after me when Sydney was looking after the car. And I remember one story, we were leading the Sligo Rally, I was in the escort, and up on the main road to Carrick-on-Shannon outside Calooney, the water pump gave up on the car, and we thought we were out of the rally, and he comes along with one of the other boys, and they pulled in it, and they changed the water pump along the road, and we won the rally. and that's Gary Wilson.
No bother to Gary.
That's the truth now, that's gospel truth, yeah.
And you were working out in your head how much this was going to cost?
I'll tell you, see if it was 10 grand, it would be good honour. And that's for sure.
Conor, maybe you'll catch up with Neely there and get a few thoughts from Neely.
Hello? Yeah. Okay, Vincent, I'm going to take the opportunity to thank you for all those opportunities. We're looking at 45 years ago. I had to look up some of the dates and things last night. And that particular rally that Vincent mentioned, the Circuit of Ireland, I hadn't done a lot of rallying with, not very far up on not well seated or whatever. So I got the opportunity with Vincent, and after scrutiny in Belfast, the dealer Vauxhall team came over to us to say that we were going to be part of the team entry. That was very good. That was with Penty Ericla and Jimmy McRae and Jimmy's ex Magnum that Vincent had bought. So here I was, just from doing wee bits local rallies and stuff like that. And it was a fantastic opportunity to be, sitting there with all these people. Vincent was a hero to start with, but to be among all those famous names, seated so well up. As Vincent said, that particular rally didn't end that well. We had too much. We were the leading southern crew by 20 minutes, and just a loss of concentration. I reminded Vincent the night, that was stage 42, and we were in Kilkenny on the way back up the East Coast. It was a long rally. There was 2 nights. You had your day, well, most of us all know that anyway. But it was a fabulous opportunity. Then the following year we had a fantastic run in the Ulster Rally, and probably, I mentioned to Rory Kennedy earlier, the shortest rally I ever done with Vincent. I got into the car at Fintra House, small Donegal Rally, and before we got to the main road, Michael came flying round the corner in the BMW, and he says, "Get out of my seat." So that was definitely, I got about 300 metres, I think. So that's it. Anyway, Vincent, well done and congratulations and everything.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Nina. Thank you.
Vincent, that's a lovely story. Like that, like 40 stages plus, and you were only there's still 2 days to go. That was, when you think of the events now, 20 stages is a huge rally. Like that was
exactly. Oh yeah, the circuit was something else. Then that was the rally to do at that time. Yeah. Sure, I think we must have done maybe, I would say 12, maybe or 14 stages on the Sunday. Out of Killarney, the Sunday run in the Killarney, yeah.
Oh, and that was a loop. You went back to Killarney that night, and then you started heading up the west coast then from there. And then, the time the Sunbeam was finished with, then it was time to step up to the big boys then. Group 4 escort, then you bought one from John Connors, we mentioned earlier, from Downings.
That's correct. I bought his car, yeah, and that needed an engine. And I remember this well. I left the house and I went up to Belfast, and I got on the plane and I went over to Cosworth, over in Northampton, and I got all the parts and I put them into a bag, and I took them back on the plane, and we got the engine rebuilt then for that car. Yeah.
And this was during the height of the Troubles, I would say. They took some look at you when you were going through the airport.
That's right. I don't know how I got through it, to be quite honest with you. With crankshaft and bearings and pistons and everything, and the spag, and they got through all right, no bother with it. Yeah.
So the Group 4 escort, you finally got to the Holy Land as such. Was it, you were up with the big boys? Was it comfortable progression?
Well, that car wouldn't have been, the real deal, it was, you know, maybe 2 notches down from the real deal, you know, and you were always then looking for the real deal. And the real deal came in Ballymallard. And
Yes.
that car became available, and up then at Tiberty, and me and him tangled and wangled and whatnot, and I bought the Monte car off him that time. And that was just before the Donegal Rally.
Yeah, like, it must only been like a few days before Donegal, because you run with his livery on it that year, didn't you?
That's right. Oh, it was basically just maybe 3 or 4 days before, or a week before. Yeah, and I couldn't get over the difference.
Right.
Yeah. And I remember going in, starting Gary Gort, and at the very start of Gary Gort, Phil Collins, I remember, done it one year, and he rode off in a Skoda on the same bump. Well, the bump was non-existent in this car.
Right.
It was like that floor. It was unbelievable. Oh, it was a fantastic car. And then we went on to, as far as we came to Ramelton, and we just had the deja vu then in Ramelton. Down at the bottom, coming out of the steering rack, there's a wee knuckle, and the knuckle broke, and the car just slid wide and into the wall, and that was the end of the rally, you know.
I think there was no super rally then, that was it.
That was the end of yours. It was
pack
right
up and
then.
go home.
That was it too. And I remember then after that, when the rally was over, the car went up to McMahon's and Letterkenny. They called it the depot, and we parked the car in there till the rally was over. And then Sidney came to me and he says to me, what are we going to do about this car? And I says, well, we need to get it fixed. Well, he says, you need to come on up. He says, to have a look at it. And remember, Bertie came up along with us, and the 3 of us went into the depot and we looked at the car, and Sidney says, there's a while lot of damage on it, and the car, the steel that was in the car was like a Coke tin, you know, because it was so light for a Monte car, and it was cracked every place. And he says, you know, by right we would need to shell the car. And I said to him, gee, that's very harsh. He said, you know, only after buying the car and whatnot. And I remember, I'll never forget to this day, well, Fisher says, you'll not be at the loss of it. He says, we'll work it out between us, and that was the truth. Yeah, and we built a brand new car out of it. Yeah.
Well, that showed the mark Bertie Fisher, didn't it?
That's the truth. I'll never forget him to the day I die. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
And like, you know, who's looking back now, hindsight's a wonderful thing. But you know, we see that car now, what it has become. Like, you know, there was only ever 3 of them Monte cars ever built.
That's correct.
You know, and to say that you drove one of them is special.
Oh, it was a very special car. I remember being in the house one day, and this knock came to the door, and I went out to the door, and this boy explained who he was. He says, I'm from England, he says, and I'm doing the history, he says, of the Monte Carlo car that you drove. And I says, right. And he says, would it be all right if I come in for it? I says, come on in, surely. And I still have them down in the garage, or down in the house. He gave me the drawings of the car, all the bits and pieces that was changed on it, and everything else. And he got me to say, he had a copy of it, and he got me to sign one of them, and he took it away with him then. But it was a special car. It was definitely a special car.
You know, and like, not only special history, but you created your own history with that car then as well.
Yeah, probably did, yeah, because I remember being up at your man up, supposed to the replica of it, and he was wild about getting me to sign different things for it and everything else. Coleman signed it, and Brooks signed it, and all the boys that drove the car, you know. So it was nice to be part of the history of it.
That's for sure. That's for sure. And by that stage, then we have a man sitting here that was starting to sit in beside you as well. Then Seamus McGettigan. Was that a bad day you had, or what?
Well, that was the big time was coming after that. The boys was in before that, was only Mickey Mouse.
They were the apprentices.
We knew where we were going then after that. I'll tell you, he has some memory for the roads, I'll tell you. He could teach you a couple of tricks, that boy.
And some in the rally car as well.
We had some, me and Mac had some great successes in the rally car, definitely had. Yeah. Hey? Oh, aye, that's right, the BMW. That's right, I bought it off Derek McMahon, and it was all right. It wasn't a great car, but it was all right, yeah.
Aye, that was a German car, no?
It was. They converted it, Starrett Graham and them converted it to right-hand drive. They bought it. It was a works German car, yeah. I remember a story about that car. We were starting to do the Donegal Rally, and the next thing, the engine. I sent the car over to a crowd over in London by the name of Auto Extra. They were specialists in these BMWs at the time. And they rebuilt the whole car, ready for the rally and everything else. The car came home, and the next thing, the car lost oil pressure. So I rang them up, and your man says to me, oh, that's very strange and whatnot. And he says, give me a wee while, and he came back to me. And he says to me, we're thinking about going over, he says, and doing a job on a door. Have you some place that we could work? Oh, I says, no place, no bother here. And he says, he came back, and then he went away and he came back. And he says, we're going to take a private plane over. And I says, right. And he says to me, is there any place near you, he says, that we could land? And there's a place down in Marragallen, we call it down Guidor, and it's just a grass strip. And the landed over, I would say maybe about 9:30 in the evening. And it was dusk, and we must have got a line of cars up each side of the grass strip, and the boys landed the plane on the grass strip, and they stayed for 2 days and rebuilt the car, and away back they went to London.
Like, what was that like back in, like, you know, the mid-70s? Like a plane coming in, it must have been like a UFO landing, it must have been like Martians or something.
Now, something you would hear, you know, you would never dream that something like this could happen, you know, but these stories are all true, you know, everyone, you know. Yeah.
But that showed that, you know, that the level was there, that people were prepared to do that, you know, to get you to do Donegal Rally was, you know, to bring a plane over from London. Like, that wasn't cheap back in the day.
Not at all. It definitely wasn't, you know. And I mean, they could have turned around and says, well, you know, just send it back to us, you know, and you know. But no, they were definitely very genuine. Definitely, 2 of them came and they rebuilt the whole thing, and you know, we done the rally, and I think we might have finished the rally, you know.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. We better get back to this man here because he's a bit quiet. You know. We better get him started here. So, Seamus, you started sitting with Vincent, I suppose, the early 80s. Success started to come quite quickly.
I definitely did. I'd say it started back in the Magnum. Magnum was the first.
Oh, you were in with him in the Magnum as well, then too? Yep. Uh-huh.
We won the Group 1 in Wexford, was it? Do you remember that?
I wouldn't remember.
Well, we finished 6th overall with it. We beat McHale in it, I remember that.
I don't remember.
It didn't matter where you finished as long as you beat McHale.
We're lucky enough to beat him in it.
Yeah. And then, you know, the Sydney Meek car, you know, the GVX, like, to get the opportunity, that was the car at that stage.
Which one?
The GVX, the
GVXers, the cream de la cream, and fairness, like someone else.
Like, you know, the success that car brought you then was unbelievable. You never mind, you know, we haven't even got to Donegal yet, but before you got to Donegal, things really started to click for you.
I did, and I definitely had to click with that car. She was a brilliant car, and fairness, the British car, and Betty had moved up to the Manta, and then it ended up with British second car after that was a Skona.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But, like, I suppose we have to mention the elephant in the room. Like, 83 Donegal, Vincent, that was, you know, talk about boyhood dreams. You know, I don't know how you would describe it, but, like, you were having a battle with Bertie and Austin. Like, they might have been a wee bit quicker, but you were in the hunt for it. You know, you weren't found wanting that weekend. It was some battle.
Oh, well, suppose the biggest battle of the whole lot was the Mantas after that, but we'll talk about that battle in Donegal. I won that rally and probably shouldn't have won it, you know, because, you know, they by default they went out and here and there, but suppose that's rallying, and if you need to be there to pick up the pieces and whatnot, you know, and I mean, it was unbelievable. I'll never forget Letterkenny Town till the day I die, you know, that was just something else. And I remember, you know, we came off Atlantic Drive, and there were very little between us going into Atlantic Drive. And I remember Austin coming up to me at the start of the drive, and he looked in, and there was one of those telltale rev counters in the car, and I was revving the car to 9.3. And he says to me, "You're never revving it to that." I says, "That doesn't tell lies." And I says, "Whatever's in it's coming out of it, you know. But if she breaks, she'll break, and that'll be it." So we started the drive anyway, and we came off the drive. And I remember Mac still, to this day, looking round like that, out the back window to see was Austin coming. And the next thing I was looking at the watch, and we had gone over 30 seconds, and I says, "This bother, you know, there's something happened to him." And we had to go on then, and we didn't realise what did happen, but he must have went off, or we hit the wall or did something, but he got punctures anyway, and we were 29 seconds or something like that ahead of him at that stage then. So we came into Letterkenny then, and I remember we started down just off the Port Road, out onto the middle of the main street. And I remember Sidney calling me to the back of the car, and I can still remember him with his finger like this on the boot of the car, and he says, "Listen now, my boy," he says, "you have this rally," he says, "in your pocket," and he says, "This place, there's thousands of people in here today, I want no showboating," and he says, "Get this car round to the finish." So anyway, we started up, and we came out onto the main street. Oh, and Jesus, Mary and Joseph, I'll never forget. with the whole main street to ourselves, you know. And we started off and went down the main street, and we went down to Tin Ties, and there were a wee roundabout at Tin Ties. And there were thousands of people, and I let the car out, and the next thing, the back wheel hit the curb, and McGettigan hit my hand like that, and I thought he had my arm broken. To ease back and whatnot, but you couldn't. The adrenaline was there, and it was just unbelievable. You came down then to the Crossview House, and I'll never forget it. It was unbelievable now, definitely.
Because, like, you know, you said like the thousands of people that was there. Like that shot coming down round Gallagher's Hotel as it is now. Like that is an iconic Donegal shot, iconic Irish rallying shot. That shot will be still looked back in 100 years' time, and still people will be saying, "I was there."
I remember we'd done the rally then when I think the club was 40 years old, and they asked me to do the rally, me and McGettigan, and this man came over to me outside the greening. We were driving down there to start, and this man came over, and he had a wee boy with him about this height, and he says to me, "I came the whole way from Cork up to shake your hand." And I says, "You did not." He says, "I did." He says, "I was there at Crossview House," he says, "the day," he says, "he won the rally." And I said, "Oh, took me son up," he says, "to meet you." Now, the like of that, never happen ever again, you know what I mean, you know, yeah.
And like, you know, Mike, that 83 Donegal, like, was there a party afterwards?
It lasted a while, anyway. Fortnight. But just in saying that, I remember the last stage at with our service area down in Downlands, and of course he went out, and there was Malcolm Smith, and you said to him, "Tell me this, what can that car rave to?" She was 9.5. Pull that lavender off her. And I remember Betty winking over at me, and Jesus, there's going to be a hand in here somewhere along the line. And we started that stage, and he hit the steering wheel, a good slap at the start. He says, "See that band coming behind me, it's the last time he was meet me on a stage." But I was waiting to see the pistons going out through the bonnet. She was just like a chainsaw. Flat out.
Great memories to have.
Oh, there's unbelievable memories to have, you know.
And there was another character that weekend too, the white T-shirt. Like that's synonymous. Like I think there's more people knows about that white T-shirt. I think than anything else I've ever seen.
That's right. There were no such thing as rally suits or nothing, you know. And there were a big hole down the side of it, you know. And people don't realise that, but it was so big, and it was so comfortable to wear. You know, just unbelievable.
And do you have it kept in a special place?
No, I don't know where it is now, to be honest. No, it was never great like that for keeping stuff, you know. I was, you know, afterwards now, when I look back at all those things, those cars I should have kept and never sold and all that, you know, they were worthless, you know, or they were worth so much money, you know.
But I suppose it was always, you were looking at the next car.
That's right, you couldn't afford to keep it at the time, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
But like, after Donegal, one in Donegal, like, you know, we touched on it there must have been some party afterwards.
Oh, it was a party for a fortnight or 3 weeks. You know, they were a cavalcade forever. You know, I was living in Letcher at the time, and we came down onto the Gibara Bridge, and the band was there, and there were hundreds and hundreds of people in it, and it was like that from we went right down through the whole of the Rosses and right over to the bridge in Crawley and back in home. Yeah, it was unbelievable. Yeah.
It was as good as Donegal won the All Ireland.
Better. They put up a big stage and everything in the town for a presentation and whatnot. Yeah, it was class, definitely was class.
Brilliant. And like being the first Donegal man to win it, like James Cullen is here as well. Like James was the COC that year as well.
That's right.
And
that's correct.
James, might be working. James, it would have been pretty special then to welcome a Donegal man onto the ramp as winners.
At that time, probably, you were young and naive, so you took on to run the rally. And the next best thing was to be there the night, like particularly Seamus from the town, and Vincent, who were kind of admired growing up at that time, like to be COC for that event. And it's one of the iconic ones, really, because it's the first Donegal crew to won it, and that's, as Seamus always reminds me, he says, nobody remembers the second man went up Everest. So the boys were the first, like, and to be the first is the first, like, and just the stories tonight. I remember hearing lots of those, like, that's what got me the interest in rallying. Planes flying onto Donegal and boys building engines, and like that was folklore. That was, you couldn't read it in the comic books. It was happening down in Donegal. So, they're all the things that got you interested in the whole thing. And Vincent and PJ, Derry McMahon, Robert Ward were the guys who you all looked up to, or they were the guys who were rallying. And we were looking at this from the ditches to watch it, like, and it was your own dream to be there, obviously. But they were the guys who ploughed the furrow, the first, and they've, that's the history of the sport. Vincent's the human side of that. He's been there from day one. Donegal Motor Club's well respected everywhere, and like there's lots of people. It's great to see this. There's lots of people who know where we came from, how it all started, the stories, the memories, and what those leading guys did for our sport back then. And just like all I want to say is, like we would have admired Vincent obviously in the going to the Circuit of Ireland. Then, like from somebody from Donegal to go to the Circuit of Ireland for 5 days was unheard of, and so that was our mission, was to follow it and see it through. Like, and for me personally, we would have been somebody we would have admired. Obviously, got to know him then as a competitor, but that's pains. It's not as good as what my biggest thing would be. That would be respect for Vincent. He spoke there something about Bertie Fisher. I end up getting that 83 winning car, and it was a fair bit of going to get it gathered up at the time, and the engine went on it on the way home. We decided we drove down from Meeks to run it in. The engine light came on. This is about a week before the rally, like, and you can imagine that, like, we're in the dumps. Rang Vincent. Right, okay. He says, leave that with me. I'll be back to you. And that's the making of the man. That's what the man is. A week later, we had a new engine in the car, and the car went to Donegal. And so, we say talk's talk, but actions speak louder than any words, and that's the mark of the man. And to me, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Vincent, to hear James Cullen there speak so highly of you, that you ploughed the furrow as such for him, and all the other generations come on behind that then, and then to do that, for the engine blew, you done the same as what Bertie had done a couple of years earlier for you. You weren't going to leave a man behind.
Well, when you're in that kind of position yourself down through the years, you realise, that you meet a lot of boys on the way up, but you must remember the boys on the way down too. So that's. You can't be straight about something, you forget about it,
Yeah, that's for sure. So the escort was gone, and back to Bertie again then, looking for about the schooner.
That's correct, yeah. We went back up, and maybe up 2 or 3 times anyway, but we always went back. And I remember when we went up the last time, I says, open the glove box, and he opened the glove box, and I says, whatever's in it, said, that's you're getting it, and I'm going home with it. And that's what happened. I went home with it, and that was the start of the Mantas then.
Aye, and the 2 years went away from the deal happy then, did you?
Oh yeah, everybody was happy leaving, yeah. No question about it.
And the schooner, they were a great car too.
Oh, class car. Yeah, great car. I remember we were going terrible well in it, and went up to Lurgan Park and had a big tree. The car went back to Sydney anyway, and Sydney says, needs a shell. And I says, right, needs a shell. So he says, leave it with me and we'll see anyway. So he went on to the crowd in England, and they had nothing, and they told him that it'd be better to go on to the crowd in Germany and see what they had. So he landed out in Germany, and he went up anyway into the yard, and your man says, well, there's one shell up in the back of the yard, and he says, after that there's no more. And suddenly went way up, and he came on the shell, and he says, right, we'll take it. And your man says, take it. He says, I don't want nothing for it. You give me the shell free. And that's gospel, yeah. And he came and he rebuilt that car, and we had it for the start of the Circuit of Ireland, myself and Rory. And I remember we were leading Castlereagh too that year as well, and lost concentration and put it off. And that was it. It was brand new for that.
Yeah, but like that, that was obviously Manta over in Germany. Like that was where the shells were coming out of for the Rothmans, Mantas, the Asconas.
Yeah.
That was the works car. That was the M Sport of its day.
Oh, that was the cars, and remember he changed the whole when they fabricated it back in Ballinamalard. They changed the whole inner valances of it and everything, and made it exactly like a Manta at that time, because Bertie he was after starting the Manta, and they knew what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Rory, we'll get a quick word with Rory about that there Circuit Ireland as well. Rory, we talked about the adventures of the Circuit Ireland. It was a rally. There was 2 or 3 rallies within a rally there, really.
Well, that was one of the classic Circuit Irelands came back in the day. I think it was '86, Vincent. But I remember before that I was rallying with James McDade. Had done quite a lot of rallies, and we were competing against James Cullen and Vincent, James McDade and I. And then one day out of the blue, Vincent said to me, "Would you be available for the Circuit Ireland?" Man, I freaking had a heart attack. Vincent Bonner asked me to do the Circuit Ireland, but I couldn't wait to get home to tell my father at home Vincent Bonner asked me to do the rally. But anyway, that car was brand new, Vincent. That was the new Manta or Ascona we had for it.
That's
and
right, yes.
I still can see it sitting up in Meeks, how beautiful that car was. And I think Ian Cuddy and Norman and who else? Maybe Kevin Hardy and stuff was with us on that rally. But we had a brilliant run. We were running 6th place for the most part of that rally, and I think on the Monday morning, somewhere about Kilkenny, we ended up off the road. But look, it was a fantastic rally and a fantastic car, and obviously a fantastic driver.
Yeah, and that was the Group B era. The 4-wheel drive cars were there. The Works Fords, the RS, Lovell and Grundle was there. You had the Metro, like Llewellyn, all them guys. It was, again, as we said earlier, the cream of the cream was there.
Back then, and obviously the Irish Championship as well. And even to be mixing it among them, it showed the calibre driver Vincent was. And we wrecked that whole circuit, Vincent, if you remember right. And it was a huge undertaking. And we had a very good team and very well organised. And everything was going, from the very first stage, everything was going really good. We're having a good battle with Louise Aiken-Walker as well, if I remember right. She was very much in the frame back in the day as well. But sure, even if you look, you probably can't see behind you there, it's below here, but every picture comes up there as an epic car on an epic stage, on an epic rally somewhere throughout Ireland, or the Isle of Man, or so. I think that's actually the Isle of Man there. So you had an incredible career, Vincent, and I was very proud the wee bit that I was involved with you, and it was a great opportunity, and as Neely said earlier, he was very thankful for it, and I can assure you I'm very thankful for it too.
Excellent, thank you very much there, Rory.
Thank you.
Another wee thing we should touch on was 85 Donegal. I think it was one of the first stages. Tony Pond was over in the Metro, and was it Glendoe that you went into it, and the red mist come down, and you were going hard, and you caught Phil Collins, I think, wasn't it, on the stage?
Yeah, I remember that. We started Glendoe, and I don't think I came out of 5th gear till I was maybe. Till I caught Phil Collins on the stage, to be quite honest with you, because I know it like the back of my hand, and go out and into the carry on it. And I mind the only car that beat me on it was Tony Pond with the Metro. He beat me by 9 seconds. And about, say, 3 to 4 miles before the end of the stage, it's a terrible narrow place, and I caught Phil Collins and just couldn't get, he probably didn't see me and I couldn't get past, but I remember all the glass and the lights and everything else was at 100 pieces, trying to stay up close that he would think that he would see me to get past, But I think we done it twice, and we did much similar time on it the 2 times, because I knew it so well, Yeah.
And the Metro, that was the birth of the Metro that day. Like, and that car, I remember Pond retiring quite early on, and his own inimitable style, saying to Plum Tyndall, the throttle stuck open, and was she going fast? She's geared for 147 mile an hour or something. Those were like, this was taking rally into a whole new level. This was way beyond the Mantas, the Skonas, the Escorts and all that.
Without a shade of a doubt, and the like of Glendone, that's the straights are so long, and you can see it with your eye for so long, that he would have been up at that kind of speed with it on that stage, definitely, yeah. Oh, they were something else, definitely.
That's for sure, that's for sure. Uh-huh. Yeah, 104 over a stage like that is unreal, and like, you just weren't far behind it then. Jim was only 9 seconds. You just must have been touching the 100. 98. Unbelievable. And then 87 then was a big year then for you too. That was you put a big effort into it. You started in the Tarmac Championship and the National Championship both that year.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was the year I won the National Championship. Yeah, 87. Yeah. Oh, that was a big year. Yeah.
And was that like a concentrated effort at the start of the year? Was it in the mindset to get a full season of rallying? Because up to that you had really been doing maybe 3, maybe 5 events every year.
Yeah, that was right. But probably maybe had a good run maybe in maybe 1 or 2 of the national rallies at the start of the year, and then that kind of put it in my mind, to try and see could have won it, and eventually we did win it. We had a good run in it now, definitely had.
Yeah, and like you took the championship. Poor Rory was sitting with you the whole year, bar the last round.
That's correct. The last round was down in Mayo, and whatever Rory, he couldn't do it anyway. And a fellow by the name of Kevin Rory, a friend of Rory's, he sat on, and we won the rally. We won it, and we won the national championship down in Mayo. Yeah.
Yeah, and like that proved probably without a shadow of a doubt. The talent was there, the speed was there, and that must have given you great satisfaction. You were fast anywhere in the country. Nobody could say, it's just a Donegal specialist or whatever kind of thing. You could go anywhere and be quick.
Well, it was, we just didn't stick to Donegal. We went down the country a lot, and we had all very, very good results. But in saying that, we had a good team behind us as well. We would run. Sydney was running us all that time, and top men with him all the time. He was running Fisher, and he was getting information from the Vauxhall team, and other than that, probably wouldn't be able to do it. The car was 100% every time it was presented out, to me, and so
it was as good as a new car every time you stepped into it.
Yeah, and we had all the information that the Works boys had, and a lot of boys that we were competing against, they had some similar cars, but the cars weren't being near as good as the Works car, and we had all that information, which was a big, big help to us.
That's for sure. And there's some of them boys here tonight, and I think Conor will grab a word with some of them. We might start with Robbie.
Well, I was involved on a few events with Vincent. It was an honour to be working with him. To be honest with you, he's a great guy. But he was saying there that he had always had the best of machinery. But I can correct you there on that one, Vincent. There was a bad misfire in the Ascona for a long time, and the engine was sent away to Swinton. It was rebuilt, came back, and the misfire was still there. Jesus, make that fucking car still misfire. But we went to the Cork 20 rally, and this misfire raised its head again, and we took the car up and down the road half the night, and as Johnny Crosby says, there was a Free State pipe on her, and the noise. In fact, we were going past the Travellers too often, and they came out and started throwing stones at us because of the noise, which you can understand. But during the rally, this misfire was still here, and halfway through the rally, Bertie went off the road. So we cannibalised his car, and we stole the carburetors of it. And the next thing, Jesus, make that misfires away now. So there was lots of days like that, lots of great memories and great fun.
That's for sure. And maybe one of the other boys will speak there now.
Hello.
Gary, you're going to say a few words now as well?
A lot of good memories. few bad ones, mostly good. Some wild parties. Vincent Bonner was a gentleman, and I don't often tell lies. Remember one day, I think he's buying the Monte at the time, landed his Sydney's and started to do the deal, and I think they bought the car, trailer, van, the lot on it, and went to write the check on it, and Sydney was a wee bit dubious about this. So Vincent says, should have been dead all and say, I'll phone the bank manager here. So Vincent phoned the bank and come back off the phone. Sydney asked him, well, how did that go? So he's just reminded him how much money I'm spending. I said, Sydney, the price of the car. I said, you know, I said, in the last 3 months between new trawlers and new lorries, you spent nearly 7 million.
And Conor, maybe some of the other boys want to say a word or two there? They're all been very quiet. Good man, Adrian.
Well, Vincent, congratulations on the night you have here tonight. I had a few experience with Vincent throughout my career rallying. It was one Donegal rally, it was in this Monte, I think it was. And Kevin, he thought that he would do the suspension on it and check it over. So his son John come down for me on, I think it was a Friday morning. I went up anyway. The rally was starting on Friday. Saturday morning, we were in Mark doing the service, and Vincent come in and he says, geez, he says, that car you couldn't fucking drive on them bumpy roads is everywhere. So we got a flat place in the cattle mart, and we got the line of the plates and cambers of Kenny McKinstry, and got it set up, and away he went, and he done his 3 stages, whatever. And just before that, Austin McHale was there in his BMW, and he says to me, what way do you think we'll fare out with that BMW? Ah, Jesus, I Vincent, you'll beat him in that BMW. But anyway, we got the suspension sorted, and away he went, and he came in after 3 stages, and I says, well, Vincent, what way are you going now? Geez, he says, you clean spoutings in a 2-story house there now. And on that rally, he went on, he was leading the rally, and I think it was the last stage. Me and Kevin were sitting out at the end of the stage. McHale came out, no Vincent. So about 7 or 8 minutes later, or maybe 10 minutes later, Vincent came out. And he says, what happened to you, Vincent? He says, go over one of them big jumps, and he says, she just died. And we messed about, took the distributor cap off, and here the rotor arm had broke. Some lad up the road had a Monte 400 or a Schooner, they're all the same. He boarded, gave it to Vincent, put it on the way he went. And I had that rotor arm for years, but unfortunately I can't find it to present it for you tonight. But anyway, there was lots of other stories. One other day we went to do a rally and realised with no fuel. And we had to borrow the jerry can of Dan Daly, the Nissan 240 he was driving. So we followed him down the road before the start of the stage. Kevin was holding up the boot lid. I was putting in the fuel. Vincent, he couldn't wait on getting away. He took off, the boot lid came down, hit me in the forehead, and opened me out, and away I went. But anyway, there was some great stories and some great rallies with Vincent. Congratulations, Vincent, on your night. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Conor, maybe just grab a wee quick word there with Kevin Harley as well. Kevin, great times.
Very good times. Great man to have service for. But we were down in Killarney one year, and Vincent had the Monza axle in the car, but we had no spare axle. We got a spare axle of Pat Kirk. It was in the van first. Spares, but down, and I think it was down in, what do you call it, Castletown Bear, and axle went in the car anyway. And Vincent says, I'm not putting that axle into the car. We said, geez, you have to put the axle into the car. He said, no, I'm not putting it in. He says, I'll let out the clutch. He says, and the big head will go land in the booter. He says. So, we had the whole thing. Brian and Liz was there. The whole rally was over. We were boarding up to go. I said, Jesus, Vincent, I said, we'll come down here. We have an axle in the car. Put it in and we'll see how we go. And Rory says, do you know what you do, boys? Toss a coin. So we tossed the coin and I came up trump. So put the axle into the car and away we went. I think it was a couple of stages after Bertie went out. We got the axle in his car then put into it, and I think you made it finish second, was it? Second overall. So there were some great stories.
It was so I was lucky that the coin fell in his favour that day.
Exactly, I suppose. Yeah.
And Rory, that 87 campaign, like, you were going great until you got to Kerry, and then you just had a run in with the guards down there. Connor's just going to hand you the mic here now.
And the circuit of Kerry, and I think it was part of the national championship that year. And we were going very well in the championship, and we were leading the circuit of Kerry rally, 2-day rally. I think Ian was with us, not on Ian. But we're leading anyway, and going from the second last to the last stage, we come up through this wee town. I can't quite remember what the name was. And just as we're coming out through the town, we were the very first rally car on the road. And just as we're coming out through the exit of the town, the next thing, this guard jumped out from behind a bush and stopped us in the middle of the road and come over. And he looked at the tyres and he says, "They're ball tyres on this car." Of course, they were slick tyres like what everybody used in the rally. But could we get through to this guard that these were better? These weren't slick tyres. These were slick tyres and better than whatever road tyres. So anyway, the guard gave us a very hard time, Vincent, didn't they? And as we were being prosecuted, all the other cars were driving past, heading to the stage. Like, so we had been leading, and of course our time was evaporating away because the guard was giving us such a hard time. So eventually we got cleared off on the way. We went like only Vincent Bonner can go in the road sections, like down into the stage, and we arrived down and flying up the start line, and a whole stressful affair, getting the helmets on, getting everything sorted. And 3-2, this is the very last stage of the rally. 3, 2, 1, go, and way down the stage, and we were probably going too fast, Vincent, when we looked back at her. And we came into a tight corner. We missed the corner completely, and we freaking had an outhouse on the outside of a corner. And not only did we hit it, but the whole thing fell down top of the car then, and the car was friggin' wrecked in the very last stage of the rally. It was very much a downer that day. Do you remember that, Vincent?
I remember it well. Everything went, whole coordination, everything went, still thinking about your man. I remember.
I would say the guard was called some nice names, was he, on the way home?
Oh no, it's wild.
But you went on to win you had some great rallies after that, and we won a good few of the national rallies that year.
Yeah, we did. I think we did. We won a lot of them that time. We won Sligo, I think, as well. That time.
Yeah. I remember Kevin and me at the Sligo rally. I was sitting on with Vincent, and we won the rally, part of the championship that year, and went out for a feed afterwards and so on. And then Vincent, in the middle of the whole thing, says, "Right, I'm away home." And he says, "You can't go home. The prize giving's on at 10 o'clock or whatever." And he's not. "I'm going home." He says, "You and Kevin can pick up the trophies." And we're thinking, "You're off your head. You you have to stay." Well, he jumped on his BM and took off up the road, left me and Kevin to collect the trophy. So when the Sligo rally called out the winners, it was me and Kevin.
Was that the year of the Thunder and Lightning?
That's correct. That was a bad year that year. Yeah, that was the first time that I met Andrew Nesbitt. He had a G3 Escort that time, and he went wild hard in it. But we won the rally, but he was second. And I remember it started thunder and lightning, and I had terrible fear for it. The sweat would just run off my hands when I would hear the bang or see the light. And John was with me, and I says, "I'm away home. You can wait and collect the prize." Yeah. Sometime.
John, like, them were great days. Like, for you to be, a young fella in the middle of this, like, this must have been, like, I don't know, like, every day must be nearly Christmas every time there's a rally on.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably going back when I really started to watch the rally was, like, I was 13 when he won the rally in '83, and I had no way out. I don't think my mother was driving at the time, and I went out at Mike and his brother. He was watching the rally on the Saturday, and I went out to watch it with him. And on the Saturday evening, they were leading the rally, and of course wanted to go out the next day. And then Michael had to go to Japan. He was selling fish at the time, so I had no way out. And I can remember yet a friend of mine, his father took us out, a fella from Letcher took us out, and I can remember I often going to Russellpenna. One place, the Glen stage finished on the Downing side, and I can remember sitting. There was a field on the right hand side, and there was a big humpback or a big bump, and then a square left just before the end of the stage. And I remember sitting in that field. Every time I passed it, it takes back memories of it. But that was probably my first time going to see the rallies, and then from then on, Jerry, I got on board with Jerry, and I could read the map at that stage, and we went all over the place. Jerry would collect me. A couple of funny stories with Jerry were the day of was it 1987? Yeah, I was on my leaving cert, and the rally was starting on the Friday, and I was finishing my exam. And when I finished the exam, I left early. I went out. Jerry was sitting at the top of the school, ready for me to go away to the rally. So, you know what I mean? The interest was always there, and it followed on from then.
And to see what this man was doing, he was at the top of the game. He was comparable with the Fishers, the McHales of the day. We can't underestimate the effort that was going on.
Oh, absolutely. You know what I mean? And as you say, you got to meet the other famous people at the time. You know what I mean? I was in awe of Bertie Fisher and Austin McHale and James Cullen and all these fellas. You know what I mean? That they were all racing together with. And at that time, you know what I mean? Crowd control was different. And you were going and you were watching this 15 cars, and you were heading. When I started driving myself, you were heading away, and you're trying to get every stage because you were trying to see him on the stage. You know what I mean? And the interest was fantastic.
That's for sure. And then, the Skona finally gave way to the Manta, and great success in the Manta as well then too. And one interesting year I always thought was, 87, the year that Mark Lovell came over, and James Cullen and James and Mark Lovell were having a great ding-dong battle. But yourself and, it was actually 88, and yourself and Bertie were having a great ding-dong that year as well. Bertie had moved to the Sierra by that stage, and you were in the Manta. And it was interesting, just the second, third and fourth cars were all Bertie's ex-cars.
Yeah, that's correct. I remember that, I think we were someplace down the country. Rory was sitting, I think, with Bertie, and that red car, a Sierra, and they were in a different league then. It was after that then I kind of lost interest and says, I would need to get into a four-wheel drive car, and couldn't afford it then at that stage. So yeah. That was the end of it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to be battling with Bertie, I think it was something like 11 seconds covered years at the finish, and Donegal back then was probably 30 something stages. 11 seconds was nothing. It was like a spin or a run wide out a corner.
Oh, the one probably the one I should have won was 1990. That the two BMWs, and I had the Manta. That was a phenomenal year. I led the rally from the start that time, and then I remember it was tit for tat all the time. There were never more than 8 seconds between the three cars, and I remember going down. We were doing Fannet, and Seamus Boyle was sitting with me, and we started. We done the stage in whatever time we done it, and then we went back to repeat it. And I says to him, "Wonder is there any place in here we could get another second or two?" And he says, "Jesus, I don't know." And he says to me, "Well, there is maybe one place." He says, "When you come across the street and you turn right down to the lake, just before you come to the hairpin down to the lake, there's a bump." And he says, "The last time we went to it," he says, "you brake before the bump." He says, "Maybe if you could leave the braking a wee bit later there." And I left the braking a wee bit later, but it was too late. I overshot and I dropped 14 or 15 seconds. And the next thing, we kept plugging away, and I had them back down to, I think, 8. And the next thing, the rotor arm broke.
Again
is right. Yeah, and it's funny that previous year the rotor arm broke on the Manta at the exact same place the year before.
I know.
Yeah. You couldn't write it, it's the same bump in the same corner.
Yeah. But that 91, that's going to go down in the history books as one of the all-time best Donegals. As you say, there was 8 seconds separating the top 3 for most of the weekend. It was a second here, a second back, and for even at the finish, Bertie and Austin were only, I think there was only 1 second really in it. It was, I think Austin won by 9, but Bertie had got a time penalty for something. So it was really only 1 second. 3 hard days of rallying, That's amazing to be 1 second between them. And as you say, you should have really been in that mix as well.
And I'll never forget it. I mean, I remember we went out, I don't know whether I think it must have been the Sunday morning and it was wet. And I think Muckish was maybe the first stage. And Austin, he just lost the head completely on Muckish. And I remember talking to Dermot O'Gorman at the end of it, and he went over the bump, and the car went up so far, and it came down, and he hit the front grille on the yeah. That's how that's the way we drove the whole. I remember then we done Lough Fairn, and we done it twice. And I remember the first time, I think Bertie was a second quicker than me, and the second time I was a second quicker than him. That's the way we did it. That was one of the best rallies I would say ever done.
Yeah. And that whole season, you had lost a ball of weight up to coming into that season. Yeah. That was probably one of your best seasons ever in a rally car.
Oh, I would say definitely it was. Yeah. I remember we went down. We done the West Cork rally, myself and Rory and Austin. He was down testing the VM, and I think he was going to the Circuit of Ireland with it, and I don't think they would allow him to put the big wheels on the back of it, and he was down just with the ordinary wheels, and we were, say after 4 or 5 stages, we had maybe 15 or 20 up on him, and the next thing he came in, he told the boys to take off the wheels, put on the big ones.
He wasn't going to let Bonner beat him, was he?
That's right. But I mean, before this, I would just go. I never tested a car in my life, and I think maybe once Bertie was down in Muckish and I went down, and I remember Joe Friel got in with me and we put the car off down at the bridge, and that was the only time I ever tested a car. Sydney always took the car in the trailer to Letterkenny, and I would get in at the Port Bridge and drive it up to Harley's or wherever I was staying and start the rally.
And that was you were happy.
And but that time we went down, he was down testing, and I lost maybe 4 or 5 stone before that rally. But the difference it made me was unbelievable.
You felt it every time, every stage.
I used to be out walking, and that, trying to get fit and whatnot, and I had to keep doing that with my hand, no power steering.
Oh yeah,
my fingers would seize up, driving it. Some memories for it now. Yeah.
And then you talked about the grow for rallying was starting to slip away. So you made the decision to sell up the Manta, and the man here in the audience, Kieran McAnallen, bought the car then off you.
That's right. No, I sold. I think I sold it to was it Vincent Mead? They sold it the first one to down in Kerry. Was that? How come I went down and bought one of him? That's right. I remember I sold it all and I wanted to go back to it again.
It was.
And I rang him up and asked him would he sell the car, and he says, "Do you really want to do it?" And I says, "I do." And I sent him down then, and he met him, and he took back the car and rebuilt the car for the next year again. Yeah,
it was hard to stay away.
Oh no, yeah.
But I say 91. Then you'd wanted to do a 4-wheel drive. That was something you wanted to do before you finished up, and you thought you had a deal done with John Price for the Metro.
That's right. I had no car at the time then, and I had sold the car to Kieran, and I said, it'd be nice to do it, and we had the deal and everything done, and he was ready to come over and whatnot, and I think maybe a week or less than a week before the rally, and he rang me and he says, "No, it's not on," so I never done it. That was the end of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it was strange. The car appeared in Donegal, and you not behind the wheel.
That's right. Oh, yeah.
But Kieran was good enough. Then you went back to Kieran and says you wanted to do the rally, and Kieran was more than willing to help you.
More than nice. Yeah. Oh, but that's the way we were at the time,
Conor, maybe grab a wee quick word there with Kieran because he has a story to tell about that.
Oh, right.
I don't like embarrassing you, Vincent, but I never really got paid for that hard. No, Vincent was selling his Manta, and God be good to the late Bertie Fisher and myself went up and went out to the garage. Started walking around the car. What do you want for the car, Vincent? Want X. Offered him X. Kept going around the car. What do you want for the car, Vincent, Axe, offered it, made him an offer. And Bertie was walking past the bonnet of the car, and he hit it with his palm of his hand. He says, Vincent, are you selling the car or are you not? And Vincent was walking past the bonnet, and he hit it, the bonnet. Right, he says, the car's sold. Car sold, and John delivered the car, never was asked for a penny deposit, one thing or another. I have to say, an absolute gentleman to do business with, and an absolute gentleman to have known.
Thank you very much, Kieran.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you know, back in them days, there was no credit checks or nothing. It was a shake of the hand, and that was the deal done.
Your handshake was your bond.
Yeah.
That was the bond. Yeah.
But the Donegal '91, you still, you finished third after being out of the car for a year at that stage. But that was it. You decided to hang up the boots.
That was the end of it then. That was the end of it.
And you were able to step away, and did you miss it, or?
I didn't look at rallying, I would say, for 25 years afterwards. Wouldn't even look at stage time, nothing, had no interest whatsoever.
No, if the rally was going down by the end of the year road, you would have hardly went down the
That's the truth, I wouldn't even go to look at it. That's the truth, yeah. That was the end of it then.
And then 2011, the motor club come to you?
That's right, and decided that they wanted to get somebody to, to kind of mark the 40th, and they were taught about different people and whatnot, and then some of the club members said, why not ask the two boys to come back and do it, and that's what they hired a car. Well, I hired a car then of your man, of Callum Duffy, and me and Seamus done it that year then, yeah.
And Seamus, from your point of view, getting back into the car after all those years out, was it just like getting back, slipping back 10 years later? It turned out it was 30 years later, but did it feel natural to get back in behind the wheel?
Made no difference to him at all. Same thing.
Just like putting on a pair of gloves, just go at it again.
The car was just different. The complete, Mark II Escort right now, but a complete different to the old GVX. The great car.
Yeah, like Vincent, the cars had come on so much. Like that was a Millington 2.5, the sequential box, all the bells and whistles. She was no BDA.
I remember when they were trying to, there was a car in Monaghan that was supposed to, they were going to hire that for me, and that I said, no, just, I'd rather a better car than that car. And the next thing, Rory heard about it, and he says to me, I think where you might get a good car. And I says, where? And he says, there's a fella, specialises in the Mark II Escorts, this fella by the name of Barry Dane McKenna, up in Mahara. And I says, right. And he must have rang him then, and he asked him, had he any car? And Barry rang me, and he says, I hear you're looking for a car. And I says, I am. And he says, I run a fella, he says, out of Mull by the name of Callum Duffy. And he says, his car will be available, he says, if you want it. So the three of us, me and him and John, went up to Barry's, and the car was down the corner, and took the cover off it and looked at it, and it was totally different altogether than ever I seen. It was 2.5, and it was sequential box. I was only the gear lever man at this all my life and whatnot. And the next thing, he says to get away for a run, and took it for a run, and it was so strange. It was power steering and whatnot, and could make nothing of it. And then anyway, I says, right, well, whatever. He says, we'll come up some evening, and he says, we'll take it over the road. He says, a place over here. He says, we'll test it. And I says, right. So I landed up and got into the car and done a couple of runs anyway, and over and back, and then I started to get giddy with it and thinking what it was, that I was better than I was. And the next thing, there's a bump beside a fella's house by the name of John Bug's house. And I remember Barry, and he was standing in the field along with Gavin Malloy, and I came round the corner, and the next thing lost the car and had terrible struggling to get it straightened up and held on to it anyway. So I remember Barry coming to me later, and he says to me, I said to Gavin Malloy, he says, that car will never see the end of the Donegal Rally. So, but anyway, what happened or what I wasn't used to power steering, and you can adjust it, and I didn't. They never said to me that you could adjust it, and they had it up full, and it was like driving my road car now, you know, the steering was so light in it, and when I corrected it, overcorrected, and had it really gathered up, you know, yeah, but we got on good in it. We had a great rally in it, definitely.
Like it was really reeling in the years, wasn't it? Like, you know, the period just seemed to slot back in, the time started to come.
Yeah, I remember that when the first service we came in, we were 40th overall, and there were about 160 cars in the thing, and Jesus, Stan says, you're going wild hard, and I said, not at all, sure, I'm only 40th. I thought I should have been up along with the boys at the front, but we came on to it then after a while, and we enjoyed it, you know, it was a great crack, you know. Yeah.
And then also, you know, you get the opportunity to do a couple of rallies in the twin cam as well towards
That's right. I remember Donald McCall and Paddy, the butchers we call him, Paddy Boyle, and he came to me and he says, you should take the twin cam for a run. And we went down to Clare and we got on all right in it, and no bother, but that was never the same, you know, once I went away from it to come back to it, was, you know, it was over at that stage.
And you've done Clare, but you had to do the harvest. Was there something you didn't get a photograph?
That's correct. And Donald says to me, we never got no photograph, and I said, sure, we'll do another one then, we'll get a photograph. So we done the harvest then after that. That's right.
Maybe we'll grab a quick word with Ryan and Donald there now too.
Yeah.
Ryan Loughran is here. Ryan, I was saying you seen this man getting in behind the wheel of the 2.5 car. You didn't know what was coming next.
Well, I suppose I'll touch on the subject of the test there again. I remember that evening quite well. Vincent done a run or two across the road. I do believe he didn't even have a helmet with him to test the car, and he done the one or two runs across easy, and turned around to come back that third time or fourth time, whatever it was, and he went by John Bugg's house, and the car nearly beat him. And I remember Barry saying that the car will never make the Sunday evening at Donegal, but fair play to them that weekend. They made the Sunday evening at Donegal. She mightn't have just looked the same as she left on the Thursday, but they made it home, and it was good to be part of it. To be fair, it was good.
Yeah, and like you know how hard Donegal is. Like it's a hard, difficult event for the two guys. You know, after so many years to step back in and set the times they did, it was very impressive.
For someone to be out of the car for so long and to get into a modern day car now that's totally different to what the likes of Vincent then would have been used back then, as he said, sequential gearbox. I'm not sure if that car had paddle shift or not, but power steering, 15-inch wheels, brakes. It was a total different car, and to set the times and be as quick as they were over the weekend was an achievement in its own.
Yeah. And like Vincent, did you give him a few tips then whenever he won the national then a couple of years later?
Oh, yeah, no call to give that boy a few tips. Oh, that boy, that's natural there.
That's for sure. And Donald's here as well too. We'll grab a quick word with Donald as well. Donald, like, you know, this man was obviously like a hero when you were growing up. To get the opportunity to sit in the car with him must have been something else for yourself.
It was unbelievable, Kevin. We, myself and Paddy, we wrecked the car in the Harvest Rally up in Balbuffet, and Con and Vincent rebuilt the car over the winter. And Paddy gave me a call one day. He says, VB's is going to go to Clare with you, where I'm knocking me about. So we went to Clare, and I was nervous going down with him. I'm not going to tell you a lie, because Vincent was my childhood hero. From watching clips of him in '83 and racing the two M3s down in 1990, like, it was something else to get sitting with him. But we went in to the Auburn Lodge anyway, to the driver's briefing, and we came out. And we turned the corner, going into Park Ferma, and I'll never forget it, the crowd was down around the car. They were everywhere. On the Limit was there doing interviews with him, and Clare Radio was there doing interviews with him on the radio, and like, if I wasn't nervous enough, that didn't help it. And we went out anyway, done the first stage, and we caught a car in the first stage, and we got back into the service anyway, and Paddy rang me, he says, Jesus, you're going well. And I says, he'd be going a lot better with his glasses on him. We pulled up to the first arrival control, and he went out to put the balaclava and helmet on him. He left the glasses on top of the roof. So one of the lads says to me then, he says, "Did you see the programme?" I says, "No, I've never seen the programme at all." A full 2-page spread on him about all the rallies that he'd won all over Ireland. So that was really adding to the pressure. But we got over that one anyway, and we got up home, and I says to him, "You stood down Clare, I said, you got a picture with everybody that came up to you, and you signed autographs, you everything." I said, "I got no picture with you." I says, "The mini stages are up now, and Lenties, we're going to have to do them." He's right, he says, "We'll do one more." And that's what happened, we got another run at it. And I got my picture with him, and I was over the moon.
You got your picture on the wall now, and you're happy.
I was happy, happy out.
And then, Vincent, that was like, again, hang up the bits for another while. But me and you done a podcast back in the middle of COVID, whenever the bad old days. Donna heard the podcast, and they said, you talked about always wanting to run the 4-wheel drive, and that was still, an itch to scratch. The man jumped in and says, "Right, you're going for run my Polo." That must have been some phone call to get.
It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it when he rang me that day, and he says, I was listening to the thing, he says, and you always had a regret that you never, let's just say, well, sure, whatever. And he says, we're going up as far as Lahi Bar, he says, Saturday week, I think he said, and he says, you should come up for a bit of crack. And I says, sure, I have no interest now watching rallies and all that, I'm finished with it, No, it should come up, he says. In fact, he says, sure, we'll make a day of it, he says, I'll send down the chopper for you. Oh, Jesus, hold on now a minute. Hold on a minute, says I need to talk to John about that. So I mentioned to John, says, we'll go up, he says, but we'll not go up with no chopper. So anyway, we couldn't have went up on the chopper anyway, because we went up, there were fog every place. But we landed up anyway, and the next thing was, he says, come on. And I got in along with him, and I would be a very bad passenger anyway at the best times, and we went up the stage, and I would know the stage from being up with John testing and that. And we came down to the lake, and I says, "Jeez, and Mary and Joseph, we're never going to get round the corner here." And you would just think you threw out an anchor. It was just unbelievable now. And he'd done 2 or 3 runs like that, and then he says, "Get in," and I got in, and he went, sure, I was all over the place and footering and whatnot, and he says, no, do this and this. And after maybe 2 runs or 3 runs, it came back to me then, and then Gary McElhinney got in, and he started to read the note and whatnot, and I thought it was the best thing I've ever done in my life. Yeah, it was great to have them. That was one of the best memories I'll ever remember now.
Yeah, because that was, it
was like driving my BMW down the stage. They were so nice to drive, and the way it would you'd keep your foot on it going round the corner, it would pull you around it, not like an escort that you would have to dab it and foot it about with it and try to get. Just unbelievable now, unbelievable.
Like the power, the brakes, the way it turned in, everything. It's just done what you wanted to do.
It was so nice.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's for sure.
When you look now at the MWRC boys and them, you can see why they can go so hard in them. There's something else then for
sure. Oh, another man we forgot to mention before now was Bernard Glacken. He built an Ascona, and then Donna bought it before it was really Bernard got a chance to enjoy it. But he also built a Manta, and that was put back the way your car was, and he gave you the opportunity to drive that in Deja Vu as well.
That's right. Well, that was a lovely day. That was a great outing that altogether, and he built a fantastic car, beautiful car. Yeah, but it wasn't the real deal. It was, the whole setup of the car and all that should be changed and whatnot. But we enjoyed it the day that it was a class day for something like that, okay.
And I think you had a wee bit of bother getting in behind the wheel of it, because
my God.
You're a bit far away from the wheel.
Oh my God. We landed at Jackson's and I got in, and I would need to be about 7 foot to get near the pedals. Couldn't get near them, no place. So we got cushions and we got everything, and couldn't get me up near we put the seat up as far as we'd go, and couldn't do nothing. And then somebody must have thought on pillows, and they went up into the bedroom, they took down 2 pillows, and they put them in behind me, and eventually I got up to the pedals. Yeah.
But that was a fantastic day too, and
there
were some great stories and some great yarns that day.
Unbelievable. And the cars that was there, you would wonder where they all came from.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But I suppose now we'll skip through and we'll start wrapping up. 2022, once again this man, Donna Kelly, the name comes back up again. He decided to do, for the 50th anniversary of the Donegal Rally, it was the Rally Legends on the Sunday. And like the lineup of drivers, co-drivers, and cars, I don't think we'll ever see the likes of it in Donegal again.
Oh, it was out of this world. Yeah, it was really, really special. Yeah. Really, really special. Definitely was. Oh, when he puts his head to something, you know.
There's no half measures.
No, he really does it. I'm telling you now, he definitely does it.
Well, maybe grab a week quick word with Donna there, just.
Yeah, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, Donna, like as we were saying there, when you take a notion to do something, you do it with all the bells and whistles.
Well, I suppose if you're going to do something, do it right. For me, I suppose, first of all, I know Vincent says at times he gets embarrassed when I say that he was certainly my hero in rallying. And I remember '83 being there, and I was 12 years of age. I was a year behind John. And I remember being down at the end of the rally and my father speaking to Vincent. Now, my father went from dad to superhero. The fact that he knew Vincent Bonner, I couldn't believe this. You know, and I suppose Rory said to me, I think at Deja Vu, this is the man responsible for it all. This is the man that put us all crazy. And I compare Vincent to the likes of Ari Vatanen. And if you look at Ari Vatanen, he's not the most successful driver in the world, but he's probably the most popular. And you know, I think Vincent is one of the most popular drivers in Ireland across all generations. And you know, we look at Andrew Nesbitt and Eugene Donnelly and people like that. I don't think they hold a candle to Vincent. I don't think they will ever have the popularity that Vincent has. And I suppose when I look at the day that we were in the polo, and certainly Vincent does give a recollection of it that is a little bit different to mine, in the sense that when I was showing him how to drive it, he was taking it in, then I sat on, and we were double clutching, we were dabbing, we were at all sorts, and I said, no, this is the way you drive it. And once he got it the way we drove it, it was somebody let me out of this car quick. This man's a lunatic. And that's when I said to Gary McElhinney, you're on next. I said, my heart won't take it, but it's a real privilege and an honour, and I certainly think, you know, tonight is a testament to what you've achieved, Vincent, and a testament to you and your personality and how genuine you are. So congratulations.
Thank you very much for your kind words.
But, like, we'll just touch and finish up on that day, you know, that Sunday in the Rossapena Hotel. That was, to me, I don't know how you feel about it, but that was a magical day.
Oh, that was really, really special. Yeah. And I'll never forget Atlantic Drive. You know, well, Mac, when we came to the end of Atlantic Drive, Mac says to me, he says, that's '83 all over again. And that was some compliment, because it was really, really special.
Yes, we're running the last few cars on the road, but the crowds stood on waiting for you.
Couldn't believe that. There were thousands and thousands. Usually, you know, when the juniors go through that there's nobody on the stages. Well, there were thousands that day. Thousands. Yeah. Couldn't believe it, yeah. See, Gart, unbelievable amount of people, wasn't Gart? Yeah. And I mean, we were driving a car that we won the rally, in '83, a replica of it, you know, and it was something else, definitely was, yeah.
And like, you know, you mentioned this, Mike here, like the bond that you guys have 40 years later, like you still have the same old crack in the banter, I would say, as it was yesterday.
Well, it's the same as when we used to go to O'Boyce and along with James McDade for the tea. It's still the same. You know, and these boys here now are at the same. They do the same nearly every day too. You know, and that's what it's all about. You know, it's just not all about yourself. It's about all the people that you've gained throughout your whole career and whatnot. You know, it's really, really beautiful. Mm-hmm. You know, it's lovely to be able to sit here tonight and be able to talk about it all. There's other people probably would love to be able to do it, not able to do it, you know, so I really, really appreciate it, and I don't know how to thank you all, and thank everybody for coming and whatnot. I mean, it's really, really made a very special night for me.
One other story, one day Vincent says to me, you go down to Wexford. I said, no, I'm not going to Wexford. he says, you have to go to Wexford. I said, my car's not going. He says, go to Wexford. Anyway, to make a long story short, I joined the crew, went to Wexford. When he got me down in Wexford, he says, you're navigating for me. I said, Vincent, I don't know the first thing about navigating. I said, I'll only lose the rally on you. To make a long story short, I did the first day. After the first day, my stomach was inside out. I says, Vincent, I can't do the second day. But I says, you know what you'll have to do? You'll have to get Seamus McGettigan here. And Seamus went in and did the second day, and they finished second overall. But if I had been out of the car the first day, Vincent would have won it.
There's one man here who wants to say a few words just before we finish up, is Jerry McGarty. Jerry, what's your thoughts on this man?
Oh no. I couldn't say anything that hasn't already been said. He's one of the biggest heroes we have in Irish rallying. Him, Austin, Bertie. He was way ahead of his time. Anybody that was fit to race Vincent and Donegal now was they were on top of their game, but not alone that, he was a gentleman and still is, and a very honourable man. And I'm glad to be here tonight to see this for him. It's just what he deserves. Thank you.
Jerry, thank you very much. So I suppose really to just start wrapping things up, a few people to thank. Michael Devlin here.
Just one more. Hello, I'm on here. I've just one more wee short funny story. I used to go into Vincent in the garage when he was doing the mechanicing in the early days. But this particular day I was in, and this fully prepared Ford Sierra was sitting over the pit, and Vincent was down walking at the exhaust, and I was standing up talking to the man that owned the car. But this other man walked in, and he walked around this car, and he says, see them old Sierras? They're the biggest heap of scrap, he said. He's kicking the tyre, he says, I had one of those cars, and he says, and I had to sell it. Vincent was down in the pit, he couldn't come up with a laughing. But this car at the time was worth a fortune. Anyway, that's just the last one now.
So, hopefully that's PG now. No, just to say a few people words of thanks. Michael Devlin, who's looked after the sound here tonight, has done an absolute fantastic job. Michael, I went to him scratching my head, and he says, "Don't worry, it'll be fine." Joe Sharp in the video. Joe said yes before I'd even asked the question. I don't know. Mark and Gavin is here helping us out tonight, taking a few shots and one thing and another. Gratefully appreciate it, lads. Thank you very much. Fergus McAnallen for the fantastic slideshow, and there's something else coming later on as well. Thank you very much. I don't know why he didn't say no, but everybody here tonight, your enthusiasm for this project, you know, anytime I picked up the phone to ask somebody, yep, Vincent, I'll be there, no problem, that's great, yep, great man, can't speak highly enough of him, I'll be there, so that's really fantastic. Conor Edwards, I don't know, Conor, I ring you up and tell you I've had a great idea, and you don't, why do you don't say no, I don't know, you just, yeah, we can make that happen, that'll be fine, yep, okay. So, thanks very much for all the encouragement. Donna Kelly, what can we say, you know, the use of this fantastic facility. I rang him and said what I was thinking of doing. Yep, make it happen. So thank you very much for making it happen. To John and Rory, John Bonner and Rory Kennedy, again, they didn't say no when I went to him with this harebrained idea, so really appreciate the two of you as well. Thank you very much. And then finally, this man here. I can't speak highly enough of this man. Every time I went over and said hello to him, it makes me feel so comfortable, so relaxed, and I spent a few hours with him now back and forth over the last couple of years, and I have to say an absolute gentleman, a complete and utter legend of Irish rallying. Ladies and gentlemen, Vincent Bonner.
All I can say, why me? And I just want to thank whoever done all the photographs. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the big screen all night and I'm looking at photographs, and I've never in all my life seen as many photographs on myself of all different places and all different stages and different cars and everything else. And whoever done it, thank them very, very much. Thank you very much, Fergus. Thank you. You made me very humble tonight by looking at all this. This is class. Unbelievable. I'll never forget this night till the day I die. Thank you very much, everybody.
And then finally, just before we go, John, Fergus helped us pull this together. But
before Kevin finishes, I would like to thank Kevin, because without him this wouldn't have taken place. And this has gone on since probably I was about early May or middle of May. I got a phone call and I seen Kevin Glendinning ringing me, and I was sitting beside my father at the time. And as he started talking, he started telling me about it. I was trying to stick the phone further into my ear so that he wouldn't hear what was going on. And he talked about it, and he thought, what did we think of it? And I said, well, I'm for it. I don't mind it. It all depends what everybody else thinks. He got Rory's opinion, and it was a go from then, and Donna was in it. And it grew legs then, and it was to happen at different stages, and just from one thing and another, we were never able to get everybody together. But finally we got it together, and the way it's turned out, in my wildest dreams, I never thought it would be as good as what it turned out. You know what I mean? To see so many people here with all their different stories on how they feel about him, and like, he's my father, and he's my hero, and always will be my hero. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't be rallying without him. You know, and I probably was late to the party, but even at that, if I said to him now, he's 70, mid-70s, and if I said to him now, we're going to Cork in the morning, we'd be going to Cork in the morning, he wouldn't be holding us back, and that's just the way he is with rallying. But going back to, again, what Kevin says, he got it put together, and last week then, we decided then we need, just to commemorate the thing, we would get something organised, and we give Fergus McNallen 1 week, and you'll see what he produced in 1 week, and I'm telling you, I'm so proud. Well done, Fergus, and what you've done. So again, without further ado, Kevin's presenting them now with the album that Fergus done up. Well done.